Shalom, shalom. This is your brother Tarzar Yah Amar of GMS Valdosta, Georgia, coming out with another weekly lesson. And I pray that it be edifying as well as informative. But first, we want to give all praises and glorifications to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rekakadash. Double honors to our apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone for teaching us the true knowledge of these scriptures. I want to say shalom and ahab to all the aquas and aquas that are striving and thriving in this same 100% true doctrine. Shalom, shalom. Today's lesson is based upon the word of the week, and the word of the week is law. And the biblical as well as the spiritual definition of law is it pretty much specifically goes into the Mosaic law and the Mosaic covenant, which is the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, which Yahweh promised to save or deliver his people if they obey these laws, statutes, and commandments, and the wrath or curses if they did not obey. Basically, what it was a contractual agreement that the Most High Yahweh Bashem Shai made with the children of Israel. And these law, statutes, and commandments were the authoritative words of Yahweh. And there could be no missing of the words of these law, statutes, and commandments, no sugarcoating, no loopholes, and there was no fine print. Everything was out in the open. So the children of Israel had no excuse, but they decided to go against the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai. Just being disobedient, hard-headed, leaning onto their own understanding. And that brought about the anger and fury of the Most High Yahweh Shema Shai. Because those laws, statutes, and commandments were put in place to separate us from all the other nations. The Most High chose us to be a special people unto himself. And we were supposed to be a light unto the world. Show them, hey, what living is all about. But, as I said, we want to be, we just was a sottish, disobedient people. Just even after all the deliverance, Yahweh Bashem Shai, all the situation that he brought us through, we just, I don't know, just was a wayward people. No gratitude. And with that being said, stop rambling. I'm going to go to the book of Job, chapter 22, verse 22. Receive, I pray thee, the law from his mouth, and lay up his words in thine heart. And that's what we're supposed to do. Once we receive these words, we're supposed to keep them dear to us. It was, as I mentioned earlier, it was a contractual agreement. It was a promise that we made, and a promise that the Most High made. But hey, we fell short. He kept his end of the contract. We didn't. If thou return to the Almighty, thou shalt be built up. And that's all we got to do. come back to these law, statutes, and commandments. You know, these laws are not grievous, as the scriptures say. They're not grievous. They're for our benefit. You know, what about man laws? Uh, you try to keep them to the best of your ability. You know, you you'll go out. You gonna stop for their red light at that traffic light. You gonna stop at that stop sign. You know what I mean? You'll go along with certain laws to the letter. And man-made laws are more grievous than the Most High, because His laws are nothing more than to extort and fleece your pockets. The only thing the Most High Yahweh Shem shall require is to, hey, only thing He wants to extort from us is righteousness, holiness, be set apart, be a light to the world. And if we keep these law, statutes, and commandments, He said He'll be our power, our God, and we will be His children. And with that, I'm going to go to the book of Psalms, chapter 94, and verse 12. Blessed is the man whom thou chastest, O Yahweh, and teacheth him out of thy law. You know, if we find ourselves being chastened, or, you know, we are getting punished by the Most High Yahweh by Shem Awashai, there's a reason for that. You know, at the song, what have you done for him lately? Let's keep that thought in mind. Psalm chapter 94, verse 13. That thou mayest give him rest from the days of adversity, until the pit he dig for the wicked. You know, these calamities and woes, the Most High had those designed for the wicked, not for particularly for His people. These was for the wicked, those other nations, those heathen. Psalm chapter 94, verse 14. For the Most High Yahweh will not cast off His people, neither will He forsake His inheritance. And let that soak in. As wicked and evil as we have been, He still hasn't cast us off. We still are His inheritance. We still the apple of His eye. And what do He require of us to do? To be holy, separate. Just that simple. Proverbs chapter 1, Proverbs chapter 1 and starting at verse 8. Okay. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Which goes into the fact that, hey, take heed to these instructions and the laws. Pay close attention to the instructions and the laws. But as I mentioned earlier, they're for our benefit. You know, they're not to um, make your life a living hell. No, it's to bring your life out of hell. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. In other words, don't be led astray by somebody else or by the other nations. You know, don't try to be like them. That was a part of our downfall. It seemed like the other nation was, uh, for whatever reason, we thought they was having more fun than we was having, or that their lifestyle was more what exciting than ours, or that we were missing out on something. We were missing out on something, all right. The wrath and the curses, but we chose death over life. Man, what a choice! What a bad choice. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 2. Starting at verse 1. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 1. Hear, ye children, talking to the children of Israel, the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding. Pay close attention. Take heed. For I give you good doctrine. See, these law, statutes, and commandments, as I said earlier, was for our benefits. You know, it was for our deliverance. You know, our safe haven to be wrapped up in these law, statutes, and commandments. Forsake ye not my law. This is the Most High telling you. Forsake ye not my law. Don't deter away from these law, statutes, and commandments. For there is a safe haven. There's a standard that comes with these law, statutes, and commandments. There's a covering, a protection. But only if you want it. Still in the book of Proverbs, chapter 13 and verse 14. The law of the wise is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. These law, statutes, and commandments was implemented to keep you from the jaws of death, to deliver you from these enemies that you have. Including the ones that you know about and the ones that you don't know about. The ones that you think are your friend. That you willing to go on a camping trip, a fishing expedition, a hunting expedition with. The ones that you have mistaken their hatred and envy for love and acceptance. When all the time they are plotting, waiting on a way, or some kind of a scenario to play out so they can unalive you. And without saying too much more, I'm sure you catch my drift. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 3. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Most High Yahweh, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Most High Yahweh from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Most High Yahweh. And what is that light? These law, statutes, and commandments. His words. The authoritative word of Yahweh. As I mentioned earlier, there's no missing of the word. There's no sugarcoating, no loopholes, and no fine print. It's a contractual agreement that's bounding. And with that, I'm going to close out with the book of Malachi, chapter 2, starting at verse 6. The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. For the priest's lips shall keep knowledge, and they shall seek the law of his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Most High Yahweh of hosts. And with that being said, I'm going to close out by giving all praises and glorifications to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rekakadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone for teaching us the true knowledge of these scriptures. I want to say Shalom and Ahab to all the Aquans and Aquas that are striving and thriving in the same 100% true doctrine. Shalom.